Welcome to the Motoring Podcast, your weekly discussion of motoring news. This is episode 676 on Tuesday, the 24th of March, 2026. Hello, I'm Alan.
Hello, I'm Andrew. And this week you'll hear us discuss how some are saying goodbye this week. In New Car News, you will find out some are hoping this is a new beginning. And in Points of Interest, you will go back in time. And we do have some follow-up this week. After being told that someone was leaving and then told eventually someone was not leaving, we can now say officially that Jerry McGovern is actually going to leave JLR at the end of this month in this year to start his own creative consultancy. There is an article linked to Autocar who first broke the news back at the beginning of December 2025 and then were told, no, it's not true. And then there was silence for ages, if you remember, before there came out a very carefully worded statement that in which the lawyers earned a lot of money and had a Christmas bonus.
Fantastic pair of statements. We might read out some quotes from that shortly.
Well, yeah, the new statements now, as a memo went round JLR last week to say that Jerry was leaving. Okay, the new CEO, PB Pelage, has said that Jerry's creative leadership, vision, drive and passion have left an indelible stamp on our brands. And this is really special if you know corporate speak. I would like to thank Jerry for the significant contribution he has made to JLR and wish him every success in his next creative chapter.
The equivalent from the very Reverend Professor McGovern is that he talks about the privilege that it's been. He'd like to thank the Tata family in particular, and also the dedication and passion of thousands of people across the business. And then ends with, I look forward to the next chapter of my creative career. Which we all know means, well, goodbye then.
Yep. Well, good luck to him. I think consultancy is probably the best thing for him right now, particularly when you saw the reaction to the news that then got denied that he was leaving the company or had been kicked out of the company. When you saw the reaction and the outpouring for love. Oh, no, it was the opposite of love. It wasn't love. It was the other thing.
It wasn't grief either, yes.
No. We shall see what he gets up to.
We'll see how long it is before we hear from him. I imagine it will be a few months.
I imagine his golden parachute has meant he doesn't need to work for a very long time.
Yes, but I'm sure he will anyway.
Anyway, do you want to take us on to the new news this week?
New news this week, first of all, comes from Audi. Audi has the right answers, supposedly. But it has, whatever those answers were, and whatever the question was, it has made £2.9 billion of profit in 2025 against revenues of £56.6 billion. That, sure enough, is not a wonderfully high percentage, and Andrew is pulling a face like Donald Trump trying to smile right at the moment.
Oh, hang on, that's harsh. I know I have a face for radio, but come on.
That doesn't sound great, but that's pretty good in motor manufacturing speak, really.
In VW Group land it is.
In VW Group land, it is cause for ecstatic partying at Audi, Lamborghini, Bentley and Ducati. There was a rise. There was £1 billion more in revenue than in 2024. And despite the tariffs and the various other fun traps left for Audi and others trying to do business in and around the United States of America, they managed only a 0.9% dip in their operating margin.
And that is impressive, actually.
Well, it is. As well as that, the deliveries of cars from across the group dropped from 1.692 million to 1.644 million. Again, the difficulties, the uncertainties in shipping stuff across the Atlantic played into that. Similarly, the Chinese market for anything that's not a Chinese car has also dropped significantly over the last couple of years, but we're going to speak about that another couple of times, I'm afraid, in the first half of the show. But yeah, well done, Audi. Well done, Audi Group.
Yep.
The Audi for the Chinese market is completely bombed, by the way, the one without the 4 rings where it says Audi.
The capital Audi.
Yeah, it's just not going well.
No.
As much because of just region and just it being a foreign manufacturer in China.
Yep.
Don't think it matters how good your product is.
Yes, absolutely. Well, talking of the Audi group, we're going to stick with Bentley because they had a bit of a tougher year in amongst all of the news that came out. And as a result, they are going to cut 150 jobs in crew, and they have had to tweak their future model plan. But they're talking of the job side of things. They have 125 positions that are open roles that they're just not going to fill now as part of the 150, and the rest are going to be made by not renewing agency contracts. Now, if you've listened to us for any length of time, Alan has said that agency staff are the first to go whenever there is any talk of staff cutting because of the very nature of their job.
That's kind of why they're there, to be honest.
On top of that, when it talks to them, and when I mentioned about them a future model plan, obviously with Porsche having delayed their SSP Sport platform that was going to be electrified, etc., that has had the knock-on effect like I discussed with Lamborghini, because if the platform's not there, then no one can develop a car on top of it, and that's just the way it goes.
That and the fact that obviously cuts in China and in North America hit these luxury, low-volume brands much harder than it does more volume brands which have a higher volume in Europe and in other parts of the world as well.
Yep. And the jobs that are going to be office-based jobs. They are not factory floor jobs because they still need the number of people who are producing the cars on the factory floor.
Absolutely. Rolls-Royce, says wandering down the country, is EV-powered, has headlined this as Rolls-Royce scraps 2030 all-electric target as demand for V12 engines persists. Which, I don't know, makes this sound more... It makes this sound like more of a thing than it is.
Well, the tone of this article is very much the customers really... It's clear to us the customers still want... There's plenty of customers who still want an engine and don't want EV.
Yeah, but there are also ones who want EVs as well. So
yes.
This is not excluding one or t'other. But
no.
Yeah, the headline is a little bit more of that.
They're being pragmatic about what their customers want, aren't they?
Absolutely. And it's not going to be completely electric. Frankly, with the volumes of Rolls-Royce that are built, I sort of shrug and go, so what? Doesn't matter what the cost of fuel does if you're in commissioning a new Rolls-Royce territory, you'll cope. And it's because regulations keep wiggling and changing. And again, North America, once again, China, once again, coming into this. Again, if you're in China and you're in a Rolls-Royce buyer, then you're not really... If you're in that market space, then you're not really too bothered by the thou shalt buy Chinese cars because you possibly own the companies that are making the parts for the cars.
Yeah.
Not really a big deal for you there.
But I also think this is another reminder that because we've talked about this with the zero-emission vehicle mandate, the car companies themselves got sucked into a trap of thinking 1 or 2 exceptional years, totally off kilter from what had been normally happening, meant that was going to be how it goes to the future moving forward. Instead of going, actually, these are outliers, are they not? Maybe we need to hold our breath just a little bit to just check for longer-term trends. So many companies went, 2030, electric only. Yeah, that's easy. No problem.
You're talking about post-COVID, aren't you? And also there is massive growth in EVs. And it's the MG syndrome, isn't it? There's massive growth because it's based on nothing before that.
Yeah.
And there's massive growth. You've got 2 years of massive growth, and everyone goes, well, there's going to be a third year of massive growth, isn't there?
This is the new normal, is it? Because at some point, someone's got to start paying for this.
Yeah, and then it all starts to stabilize, and there's steady, reasonable growth brought on by people wanting to change and by availability and all these kind of factors.
Yeah.
Everybody made big changes, and governments made big predictions based on those and on their made-up numbers. I do like the look of the Spectre. I do really like.
I can't stand it. I've seen one up close.
I know you're the opposite, but I think they look great.
Yeah, that's the joy of design. Anyway, moving on. And this is an article linked in the show notes that is titled THATCHAM Ends 22-Year EURONCAP Partnership. This caught me a little bit by surprise, I have to say, because whenever one mentioned EURONCAP in the UK, you automatically mentioned THATCHAM for good reason. Apparently, they have amicably split. This is just in time for the new EURONCAP rules when it comes to testing vehicles and how they're going to score them and give them however many stars they wish to give them, or they can achieve. And there's a lot of wording from THATCHAM which makes me cautiously optimistic. Anyone who's listened to the show for, I don't know, more than a week has possibly heard how frustrated I have been with ADAS systems in cars. Alan has had that problem as well, but I seem to have it more than him.
Oh, sorry. You mean I've had the problem with cars, or the problem of having to listen to you? Because, there are two different things there.
You've put up with that for over 10 years, so that's your own fault now. There's no one but yourself to blame now.
I could have tapped out at any point.
Yeah, exactly. What they're talking about here, because there's some nice quotes in here that that there should be some more nuance when it comes to analysing and reviewing ADAS and testing ADAS. They say, they're quoting here from the Chief Research and Operations Officer, Richard Billiard, that the discussion is around how ADAS systems interfere with the job of driving, and that is mostly a negative and not a positive thing. Well, yes. Thank you for listening to the show, Richard. That's great. But they are talking about real-world safety, and there's a lot of mention of real-world stuff here, which is refreshing to hear, I have to say, is because up to now it has always been on a sanitized test track.
I like this particular paragraph. I think this is very interesting. A 5-star car will perform fantastically on track. We put 2 5-star cars on the road and they all perform very differently. You can have the bings and bongs and the steering wheel shaking in your hands, but that can happen more on some cars than others. We're measuring how accurate those responses are, and that's basically where you're going to and what you're keen for as well, isn't it?
Yes, because I saw one of the officers from THATCHAM talking about safe driver scoring, and that worried me because that made me immediately think, oh, hang on, are you talking about what insurers do? So I asked for clarification, and he made it clear that it was about how safe the driving environment was for the driver, how little distracted they were. If a bong goes off and you look down at your dashboard, it then doesn't bong at you for going, you've looked away from the road, which happens.
Oh, that happens.
Or things like there's one particular tone for there's a speed camera ahead, and then as you get to the speed camera, there's a different tone. Or things like that. It's just making it much more user-friendly.
And in case you think Andrew's making that up, I drove a BYD not so long ago, which was making all sorts of crazy bongs. So I looked down at the dashboard to try to work out what the crazy bongs were, and then it started another round of crazy bongs because I wasn't looking at the road.
I've had some cars that shout at me that there's a corner. No matter what the corner is, or what speed I'm doing, or how severe it is. And then there's other times that it chooses not to tell you there's a corner when it is more severe than the corner that was before.
Do you remember, we've had that problem for almost a decade, Andrew, that Mitsubishi L200 Animal, which was the very first press car I ever had, did that to me. It would bing at the entrance to every flipping corner on country roads, and it took me ages to work out what the noise was and why. And it was the nav system going bing at me to go, here's a corner. If I could have ripped it out of the truck and thrown it out. So I have my moments too.
THATCHAM are saying they want to stop that sort of thing now. And so, like I say, I'm cautiously optimistic because, words are cheap. Let's see how this manifests itself. But anyway, do you want to take us into Europe, our HGV correspondent?
Oh, so much. So very much. We've been talking about emissions already this show, but we've always been talking about it around cars. The European Parliament has been looking at the CO2 targets that it put in place for truck and lorry manufacturers. So we're talking heavy-duty vehicles and large goods vehicles. I don't know if you know, but much as we have Euro 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, plus any sub-variants thereof, for cars, then the same thing exists for trucks and agricultural vehicles as well, just for completeness. The same thing applies for trucks. What's actually going to happen is that the EU is looking to relax some of the targets for some of these trucks and heavy-duty vehicles, and as a result, make it kind of ease the burden, I think, on the manufacturers and also on buyers as well. What's quite nice about this is that if manufacturers exceed the targets some years, which is a not impossible thing to do, then that oversaving gets passed on as a credit into the next year as well, which is kind of good. So it means that there are benefits for getting on with it as well.
Yeah, it's not allowing them to sit complacent. It rewards you for, as you say, getting ahead of things and continuing to improve the fleet CO2 emission reduction. Therefore, when it does come to the jump from the level that they're looking at from 2025 to 2030, you've potentially taken a big chunk of that out the way because you've already got that banked.
Some of this change is thought to be, lots of this change, it appears to be the result of lobbying Volvo Trucks, which includes Renault and others. Daimler Trucks, Scania, MAN, Volvo, Iveco and Ford all wrote to the EU back in October asking for something like this. Big worry, of course, around trucks is if there's enough charging infrastructure for more than depot-to-depot type work. We know that in the UK, there are companies who are looking at that and implementing that already.
I am going to move us on, and this is the news that the US company LYTEN has acquired yet another NORTHVOLT unit. NORTHVOLT is basically no more, as it was going to be the European hope for battery manufacturing and recycling, and they have retreated continuously, and LYTEN has kept buying up their assets and their factories and everything, and they have applied to buy the recycling plant that that NORTHVOLT had in Sweden, and they're just going through the checks and balances to get that permitted. I find this very interesting. At a time when the EU has brought out that Build in the EU, and a lot of that was around recycling of materials within the EU or having their own materials in the EU for basically security reasons, so that they could still continue to build environmentally friendly products, especially cars, that an American company has been coming in and buying these things up. It's very interesting that American companies doing that, considering the regulatory spin and pivot from their government, but equally how tensions between Europe and America have emerged in terms of trade and geopolitical things. When it comes to recycling, as I said before, that's a massive thing. Recycling batteries, the EU has made it very clear they want that to be a big portion of what is happening in the continent. I think it's something like 76% is a target figure. And I have seen a few articles and posts on LinkedIn and the likes and Blue Sky where people are just presuming that we're doing recycling, battery recycling already. And it is happening, but it is nowhere near the scale that is required or that I think many people expect it to be at, because it is very, very difficult.
I think part of the challenge with it, especially when it's around EV recycling and stuff, is that actually there's a much bigger secondary market for these things. First of all, that everything's lasting much longer than was originally predicted.
Yes.
And secondly, not only that, but there's a whole market for things which are done, and there's a market for being able to manage packs and rearrange cells. So there's far less waste than I think people anticipated there being. The trouble is that then, because there's not enough waste to keep these things viable, which is one of the things that happened here in an unpronounceable town in Sweden, then it becomes very difficult to be profitable when you're working at, what, a tenth? No.
The figures are that NORTHVOLT was talking about recycling capacity of 125,000 tonnes, and the only figure that comes out from all the documentation in terms of the takeover is 8,500 tonnes per year. That's quite a significant difference, as Alan has just pointed out. And I think that shows the scale of the problem in terms of actually making it happen, let alone, as you quite rightly point out, the supply of dud batteries or batteries to be recycled is a lot less, I think, I agree with you on this, I think, than everyone was expecting. There is less to trial and practice and learn from.
Exactly. To give an example, then quite a lot of the cells and stuff for having, if you've got solar and battery storage, then that's one of those great secondary purposes where the stuff doesn't have to be quite as accurately balanced and all these kind of things as it does for a vehicle. That's where some of the cells are coming out of cars which might have had an accident or something, and then they're being checked, and then they're being reused in for that kind of thing. Similarly, many of these EV conversions of classics and stuff, again, accident-damaged vehicles that have been written off, then the entire powertrain, the entire battery packs are being repackaged into other vehicles. There is a massive market there for bits out of common EVs.
Yep, absolutely. Alan, do you want to take us on, and I've kept this one specially for you because I know you love this acronym so much, onto our electric buses in the UK?
Yes. The English government, it is, isn't it, is launched another funding round for electric buses through its zero-emission bus regional areas, or ZEBRAs, as I said. An acronym, I'm just looking for a meaning. This time, however, it's £73.2 million, or 84.7 million euros, if that works for you, is being allocated across England for the procurement of battery electric buses and the associated infrastructure. And I want to emphasise that because the infrastructure for some of these has to be pretty chunky. The areas getting the money are South Yorkshire for 186 buses, the Tees Valley for 82 buses, Devon for 90 buses, and it's not getting very much, so we assume they're little buses that can get round corners. Liverpool, 36 buses, Isle of Wight, 23 buses. Those are not the ones we talked about last week. Or is that more? There must be more.
This is new.
North East, 18 buses, Reading, 17 buses, West Northamptonshire, work that one out with your compass, everyone, 17 buses, Nottinghamshire, 11 buses, and Surrey, 4 buses. Poor little Surrey. It's all good.
Yeah, very good to see. Let me move us on, and we were talking about it earlier, but the zero-emission vehicle mandate, we've got the first report on the vehicle emissions trading schemes, or VETs, because the government cannot produce anything without there being an acronym. And hot off the press, people have been crunching the numbers quickly. As we are towards the end of March in 2026, we get the 2024 report telling us how well the manufacturers did for electric cars and vans and how close they got to the mandated levels. And in fact, they exceeded the mandated levels. They did this through a combination of actually hitting targets when it came to registrations, but also through some small amounts of buying credits from organisations within their particular markets that had excess. I don't understand how it takes it takes
Look,
a
have
year
you
and
ever
3
tried
months.
to format an Excel spreadsheet?
Yes, thank you.
You think you're almost there, and then it just goes bloop, and it's all gone. I mean, it's not as bad as trying to arrange a picture in Word or something, but
Yeah. That's ninja level, that.
you can have it from here.
But it's good news, and the expectation is that from SMMT that it's going to be a similar result for 2025. We'll find out maybe in 2027, 2028, whatever. You know, when the information gets reported out, because we don't want to rush these things.
They've authored the spreadsheet, they've written the calculations and the macros. Now they just have to use it again for the next year.
Where they've already got the information.
Yeah, type the numbers in the boxes. Simples.
You'd think.
You would think so. What's also simples, of course, is Guiltman. Quick break in the show where we ask for a tad of financial support to keep the lights on and the hosting running. If you feel that the Motoring Podcast is worth small consideration every month, then you can become a patron. Different levels of patron include different levels of commitment from us to you, including being able to watch the show recorded live. We also have a small range of merchandise in our spring store, from stickers to mugs and t-shirts. If you don't have any spare cash, we do completely understand, then you can help us by following for free from our podcast player to receive every show as they're released, and by liking and rating the show, whatever way your podcast supplier lets you. If you've done all of that, and some of you do, so thank you very much indeed, then the last thing you can do is to recommend us to your friends or colleagues.
Yes, thank you, everyone that does. This is very much appreciated.
You do absolutely rock, people. Thank you.
That means, I believe, it is new car news, Alan?
It is. And lots of conversation on all of the social medias and in all of the publications and on all of the YouTubes as well about the new BMW i3. Now, this is not a 2 2.5 plus boot, whatever, hatchback as it was before, made with a carbon fiber frame and composite body panels and all of the cleverness that's there, and probably one of the nicest car interiors in the world. It is a saloon car. We don't say that very often, but it is. It is an electric saloon car. And the headline thing about this new BMW electric saloon car is that it offers up to 559 miles of range.
Which is excellent.
Which is, well, neither of my cars can manage that on petrol. One of them you would have to fill up twice in that time. 559 miles range, it's still quite a lot. It shares a platform with the iX3 SUV, and it says here on this Motoring Research article that the i3 will take on the Tesla Model 3 with class-leading EDD range and clever interior tech. We'll come back to the interior shortly.
Sorry, anyone still buying a Tesla Model 3s in this day and age?
Well, that's it. I was kind of going to go there. Why is that the benchmark when, it's not a vehicle that's moved on?
Well, the man who's actively paid for and called for a regime change by violence if needed in this country and others. Why is anyone giving him any money? I cannot fathom it.
No, neither can I. But moving on from that, the i3, however, is a very different beast in that it is actually got, some styling. And yeah, we differ on this. There's your warning, everyone. I actually quite like it from the outside. But I do have that my usual massive caveat that these are very doctored studio photographs. And therefore, I don't know how accurately they reflect what the vehicle looks like in real life beside people and in an actual environment that isn't essentially just a gradient. And don't go pointing me at the rendering of it that was placed against a blurry road background. Andrew's not going to, so I'm going to say that to all of you at home, because that was simulated rendering as well. What I see, I like. I mean, the rear lights are a bit odd, but so are the ones on the i7. The side's a bit tall. The wheels are 21 inches and going to cost you a flipping fortune in getting new tyres. And the sort of black with polished bits is gross, and I really don't like that. But I actually think that the general form of the outside is really pretty smart.
I don't mind the well, I am less offended by the front-on look.
I quite like the front-on look.
But I think part of that is because the recent past of BMWs at the front has not been aesthetically pleasing, he shall say, being very kind.
It does not in any way resemble a beaver.
There is marked difference in that. I quite like the way that they've done the lights and gone into then shape that up the bonnet. But other than that, externally, I just find, just on the lines, and I totally agree with you, you have knocked it into me now over nearly 10 and a half years, that commenting on purely rendered images is not something one can do accurately with confidence. But there are enough elements that I feel that we can see that I am disappointed with.
There was one that we discussed before the show when we were running through the stories. And the more I look at it, the more I think that's a bad Photoshop job. And that I actually think that what you feel should happen probably will in real life. Just looking at the reflection, because they vary. The reflections all varied from the angles.
You look at the rear three quarters, You look at the rear three-quarters, it's off as well.
I think that's a problem that somebody's been at it and gone with Photoshop.
I hope you are correct, because then I wouldn't be viscerally angry when I saw it in person.
Yeah, no, I honestly, I think that and some of these renders, they don't all match, mate. And some of them, the things that we think should line up, do line up, and in others they don't. It just depends which one you look at. The interior, however, does tend to go a little bit Tesla.
We're in very much agreement.
Very much more in agreement, yes. I like all the stuff at the top, at the bottom of the windscreen. The slanty screen, so it's a parallelogram of a screen, is unusual, but I don't dislike it. I just go, oh, that's a bit odd. Where I save my ire, and we're going to come back to this again, is the steering wheel. In this world where basically everyone's decided that interiors should have sod all in them and not be interesting at all, the only thing left for designers to pleasure themselves over seem to be the steering wheels. Now, I don't know if this is some optional sport version, but it's horrible. It's really horrible. And I don't like BMW steering wheels anyway. The last 10 years or so, they've been getting chunkier and chunkier. And
they're aping the GT3 wheels. They are aping GT3 wheels now, because if you look at on this particular one, they've got cutouts for the thumbs.
They've got those thumb cutouts. It's just horrible. It's so unnecessary.
But it's not just that for me. It's the fact that it's 4-spoke with 1 spoke going straight up.
Yeah, I know. It looks like it's just off.
That's just so off-putting. When it comes to the interior as well, obviously it's festooned with internal lighting. See my mention of it last week with Mercedes. I cannot fathom how people have decided that let's make them look like Twitch streamers' setups, that is now definition of luxury. I don't get that at all. I mean, all it needs is a can of the Red Bull or something in the corner, and then we can just go full on and someone with the sounds of Call of Duty in the background. There's no buttons in here as well. It's all in the screen, which is total contradiction of what EURONCAP have said that they are demanding.
Yeah.
I cannot stand that bar under the window, except for the bit in front of the driver. The fact that they've then carried it the width of the thing is ridiculous and stupid, and that is going to be dangerous.
And also makes it much cheaper to engineer for right-hand drive.
I do not understand how we've got to this stage with premium vehicles and others where we feel that this is luxury, this is premium. It just looks so cheap and nasty is my problem.
We don't, and we're being told it is, and everybody's going, it's a bit bare in here, isn't it? It's not premium. It is cheap enough. It looks cheap.
Well, luxury is now you don't actually have anything.
Yeah, it looks incredibly cheap, and I don't. But once again, I think that the rendering here and the fact that it was chosen to show it off with white seats, white paneling, white steer. Who the heck would ever choose a white steering wheel? Come on. There's someone who lives in a house with white sofas and white carpets, no doubt.
I can understand it from this
pizza,
perspective, because they need to show. Because if you did black in that, you can't see any of the details at all.
Well, that's
which is maybe a blessing.
That's one of the reasons why it's really hard to. Why I hate these renderings. I hate them with a passion when we get shown them, and everybody does judges them, and all the lighting has been balanced, all the everything, and it's not a true reflection, no pun intended, of what it's like to sit in it. And although admittedly, it does have airs of Clatty Pats on Great Western Road or whatever, this is cheap nightclub stuff. Anyway, there are some statistics about it. There's loads of other stuff you can do to find out about that, but that's Andrew and I have got shouty about that. Full UK prices and specifications will be confirmed closer to the August 2026 production date.
But cracking range, absolutely stunning range. Well done, BMW, for that alone.
Yes, absolutely. Should we talk about the new Citroën DS?
Yes.
Or DS, it's not Citroën DS.
There is a DS, and it is the number 7, because now all their vehicles are numbered, whereas previously they were just numbered.
The number 7 is the number they will register every month.
Okay. I look forward to the Christmas card from Stellantis this year.
If we get anything from Stellantis, I'll be amazed.
Well, acknowledgement that we exist. That would be, that's a start.
Oh, yes, that's the first challenge for some of us.
However, getting back to this is a mid-sized SUV. So if you are thinking in terms of the Stellantis range, you are looking at the Peugeot 5008, the C5 Aircross, the Jeep Compass, and the Vauxhall Grandland. It's that sort of size. But DS is their premium brand, let's not forget. And it is going to be charged at a premium rate because they make it clear they have the technology and the luxury and the fit and finish that allows them to do that, unlike, it is implied, unlike the rest of the
rest of them.
And let's be straight up, we had a quick spin at SMMT last year in the Vauxhall Grandland, and we were both very impressed.
We like the Grandland.
With the fit finish and the way it drove. In terms of how it should drive, it should be good. Equally, the 5008 got a good kicking because that was the first one that came out, and lots of UK journalists said that it wasn't nice to drive. DS have managed, I feel, to pull off a bit of a trick here when it comes to the external design. As we know, Stellantis like to share platforms and many body panels. However, I think the DS is seriously distinct from the rest of the range in what they've been able to actually tweak and change in terms of economies of scale, because that's very important to Stellantis and the previous CEO. And I think it looks quite neat, actually. The colour that they've chosen for the press images, again, heavily rendered. There is caveats inserted here. But I think the colour they've chosen, which is a sort of dark metallic green, is a very clever and good one. So externally, I think it looks pretty decent. I really like how they've resolved around the back end, or the back 3/4 of it and stuff. I'm impressed with that. When it comes to the interior, it's, again, we will now just insert it's sparse. There are some buttons in this, at least. There do appear to be buttons when you zoom in deeply. There is lighting, though, not quite as much as Mercedes and BMW like to deploy. And there is a large screen, center screen. However, and I now hand over to our new steering wheel correspondent, because the theme is continuing. It's an X.
It's not like 4 spokes in a traditional one. It's like they're pointing at northeast and southwest and northwest and southeast, he says, going around in a very strange way. Around the compass in a very strange way. But yeah, they're sort of on the diagonals, and that just seems a bit weird, both from I think one of my complaints about the BMW steering wheel is it's so molded to hand, or made to look like it's molded to the hand and to be ergonomic, because it's got these big thumb rests. Whereas this is absolutely the opposite. You think, well, just where I would quite like to rest my hand, there is either nothing, or there is what looks like a metal spoke, a metal style spoke going through it. So it's actually the opposite. And yet it still also has a little bit of the old Quartic Allegro about it.
Yes, it does.
If you look, it's flattened at the top, the bottom, and the sides.
And it's chunky.
And again, what's if you want to put your hand, there's a way I could describe it, but Andrew would just have to edit it out, and he would look at me in a funny way. So
Well, what you need to do is you need to click the Autocar article and have a look at the picture so you can understand what Alan was going to say.
But, if you want to grip hold of a solid member, then do it to your own. It just seems rather weird. It's just weird.
It is odd. The positioning of the spokes is confusing. But I think it's what you said. I think it's one of the few things a designer's allowed to play with, to continue this metaphor dreadfully. Anyway, do you want to take us on to an electric pickup now? Because there's no interior picture in this one as well, so that's helpful.
I've never been so relieved, actually, after partly my own fault, to want to talk about an electric KGM Musso. KGM, of course, used to be SsangYong. They're not anymore. They're KGM. The Musso is pickup truck. The latest version is kind of Hummer looking, to be honest. It will arrive in the UK showrooms in May. It will offer 240 miles of electrically powered range and a 690 kilogram payload capacity. It will also be priced from £42,495, including VAT, and the government's £2,500 plug-in van grant. That sounds like a lot, but compared to the price of most pickup trucks these days, that's blooming good value. It has an 80.6 kilowatt-hour BYD supplied lithium iron phosphate battery, electric motor per axle, which combines to 206 brake horsepower and 250 pound-foot of all the torques through all four wheels. 20 to 80%, because it's BYD batteries, 28 to 80% in 31 minutes. And it can also be used to power external devices such as lights or power tools. Interior has screens, all sorts of stuff like that. Cargo bed can be treated like a cargo bed. And the tailgate itself can be used as a seat supporting up to 150 kilograms, or a builder. What's interesting about this is that for a long time, EV pickups, you only got the two-wheel drive Maxus T90. But the latest Maxus offering the e-Tron 9, the D-Max EV, and the Hilux Electric are all four-wheel drive. This is becoming an area where I think this is an enlarging segment. I think there's a lot of I'm trying not to make terrible puns here, but there's a lot of drive for electric pickup trucks from fleets, more than anything else, probably from fleets.
I will now move us on to points of interest, and we have a lunchtime read from The Drive. Alan put this one in, and it is titled Inside GM's Decision to Help Restore a Rare EV1 for the First Time Ever. And it's a fascinating read, actually, having run through it, because I didn't know, I knew of the EV1, and I knew of GM's apparent indifference or embarrassment or some issue for some executive at some point where quite a big chunk of these got destroyed. But they were they were allowed out twice, one in 97 and one in 99, where they were leased to the general public. Not many of them, but then they were brought back within the fold, and like I say, most have been, should we say, recycled?
Literally, yes. Yes, literally. But many others were disabled and then lent out to universities, technical colleges, museums. There's one in the Henry Ford Museum. There's another one in the very good car museum in Cleveland, Ohio, as well. I went from never having seen one to having seen about 5 in a week at one point. Maybe because I visited too many car museums. The thing was, all of those ones were disabled one way or another. And there were very strict agreements in place with GM that this was only on loan. It did absolutely not belong to them. And if they made it work, there would be very harsh penalties and it would be taken away from them. So people weren't allowed to. And you can follow this. If you go to the Questionable Garage on YouTube, we've talked about Jared Pink's stuff before. And he goes back through all of the history of it and all the legal parts that got to it. But one of those technical universities, the building got damaged, the car got damaged, the car was left outside in a parking area. Eventually, the company the sort of towing company that created it took that away. If a vehicle isn't claimed or can't be found on a number of registers after something like 6 months, then the towing company legally owns it and is allowed to sell it, as long as the tow company can prove that it jumped through all the appropriate hoops. Well, they treated it just like any other 20-odd-year-old damaged car, and they went through all of the appropriate hoops, and all of a sudden they end up owning it, and they put it up for auction, and so whoever buys it at the auction is the legal owner. So this happened to chap. You can go watch I'm trying not to give away too much here. Chap did that, bid in the auction, made sure his friends were not bidding against him and stuff, and now is the only other legal owner of a GM EV1 that isn't General Motors. It's the only one in private hands. And the trouble is that it's in pretty bad way. It's been sitting with a smashed windscreen for many years. There's been water ingress. There's been all sorts of stuff. Things are grotty. The unique windscreen is broken, etc., etc., etc. And they were expecting calls from GM's lawyers at some point in this. They'd made sure they had legally, they'd made sure they had everything in place. It was definitely theirs. But they were not expecting GM to make life easy for them. GM has done the opposite. GM has come along and said, we want to help support you with this because this is a really cool project and you've done everything right and, it is yours.
Which is mind-blowing considering how they've treated the car in the past, particularly with the recycling of so many of their models that they had, etc. If you read the article, because it's
read
difficult
this
not
article,
to give too much
go off
away
the question of the garage and watch them, because later than this article, more recently in this article, there's been another video. And it goes, sure, this is the kind of one about it, but they go through and they don't pull any punches asking people but it got as far as the CEO, put it that way. And somebody showed him the video and said, you should watch this. And so he's speaking to them and they interview him about it. And he says, well, the thing is, we're kind of embarrassed really about what happened. As part of it, a certain amount of the sort of denial of the EV1 is that at the time it was the thing that kind of made sense, but it was a terrible PR move. And he's talking about it and he said, well, and then there's been a certain amount of embarrassment. We did a thing that maybe wasn't the right thing. It seemed like it at the time, but it wasn't later. The thing is that GM is still on an EV push as well, so it makes sense for them because they've got stuff like the Cadillac Celestiq is a gorgeous thing, and some of the smaller models as well, names of which end in eek, but I can't remember what they are. You should go watch this. There's a couple hours worth of stuff if you want to go right from the beginning, but it's very, very interesting. I haven't watched the latest video, but they've got creative stuff from GM. It's the one that follows all of this, but it seems that it probably contains a new windscreen. I've talked far too much on this. It's really, the whole thing is interesting. Go watch, please.
Do click the link in the show notes because it'll take you through to various links to the YouTube channels and stuff like that. Plus you get to read a little bit more. There is actually a little bit more than what we've already said for you to find out. But it's a fascinating story, and I'm now going to be following it because I'm invested now, thanks to Alan's enthusiasm for this.
Yeah, sorry. And as I said, Questionable Garage is a really good YouTube channel to follow because it's so nice and varied.
Excellent. Well, Alan, do you want to take us on to stuff that we might have forgotten?
Yes. Well, forgotten cars of the 1990s.
So for people of a certain age...
Now, most of our listeners remember the 1990s according to the demographic data that we have. Some of you maybe don't, and that's quite scary for some of us. There were a lot of very cool cars. There were big booms in Japan. There were all sorts of things, just positivity around the world. Who remembers that? And there were some very cool limited cars, and there were so many that many of them have been forgotten. This is a really good list by Matthew McConnell on Autocar. Me being me, I haven't forgotten about many of them, but I can't remember a shopping list. Don't judge it by me. There's 40 slides. Andrew, what have you chosen?
Well, it is tough. There's some of them I didn't know about because some of them are from across the pond and things like that. And some of them I do know very well, thanks to you. However, if the ladies and gentlemen would like to move to slide 17 in their pack and go to the Citroen AX GTI.
Okay, this is a good call. Me like.
Well, there was probably 4 others that I thought I could pick. A couple of them were a little bit obvious. Well, no, like as in definitely pick. I think there's probably about 2 or 3 that I just go, nah. Other than that, I would not object to any of the others. However, this one, I've never driven an AX because at the time I had my Polo S coupe because they couldn't call it a hatchback. But I did always look longingly at the AX GTI. Not that I would ever have been able to afford the insurance at that age or anything like that. But I always liked the AX. It's a Citroen for starters. Light, nimble, and everything like that. Not the fastest because, it wasn't going to beat the 205 GTI, etc., etc. I just love the fact that Citroen did it.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's cool. It's a small, nippy hatchback. What am I going to dislike about it?
I know, exactly. Front-wheel drive as well. Alan, of the 39 other slides out there.
It's kind of funny because there's all sorts of stuff from sort of limited production supercars right the way down, and we've both gone for something that's pretty prosaic. I've chosen the Mitsubishi Galant VR4 because I think that if you're going to have four-wheel drive, you might as well have four-wheel steering and all of the other toys in there as well. 276 brake horsepower, four-wheel drive, 160 miles an hour, 0 to 60 in 5.3 seconds. Automatic, Tiptronic, based, also with literally Tiptronic, based on the Porsche system. Remember, it was their big rally. It was their rally car. It was the Mitsubishi rally car before they started using the Lancer.
Yeah.
Instead, much like the Legacy was the Subaru's equivalent before they moved on to the Impreza. Super cool. I've always liked these. There was an estate version as well, but I just always thought that these were that sort of. It's kind of staid, but it's kind of handsome styling. I just really, really like them. And of course, as I say, four-wheel drive and four-wheel steer. Who doesn't like that?
Awesome. What a fantastic choice. Well done. Yeah. Thoroughly agree.
He approves.
I'm going to take us to the end finally because we have waffled for Britain tonight. And think of this as a lunchtime watch because there is 47 minutes and 25 seconds of Mr. and Miss Hubnut walking around the NEC restoration show, and it's lovely. It's just wonderful, low-key, relaxed, as you would expect from the Hubnut channel. It's just relaxed, walking around, pointing out all the things that they saw and piqued their interest, which pretty much is all of the show. It's utterly wonderful. Great, and they get off to an absolutely storming start with the first car that they actually interact with. I'm not going to say any more. You at least watch that. It is wonderful. It made me heartily laugh out loud. But do go and enjoy this. Do go and support Hubnut. They are friends of the show, and we love what they do. But here's something to take us out of ourselves and think about something different in the current climate.
Oh God, Andrew, we've just been talking about the Citroen AX and the GTI, and I'm scrolling through the bottom half of the internet here, under the video, and somebody's pointing out that it's 30 years of the Citroen Saxo, which replaced the AX.
No, that's no, it was no.
It can't be. There's no way it's more than 15.
It's only 15. It's 15.
Yeah. No way. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. And we'll stab anyone who says something different.
As you say, no other parish notes. We both intend on being here the same-ish time and place next week, which I think means that all that's left for me to say is to remind people not to forget that between now and next week, you can give us any feedback and share your thoughts for the show at motoringpodcast.com on Blue Sky, at motoringpodcast on Instagram and Facebook, and on the contact page of www.motoringpodcast.com. Hub of all our activities. Remember, you can support us financially via Patreon, and please leave a review and rating on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or however your podcast app lets you do such a thing. Andrew, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Very difficult at the minute because I have chosen to exclude myself from social media again recently. There was nothing nice out there, so I stepped away for my own health.
I haven't even been on it very much recently.
No. You can try on LinkedIn because I do check that a couple of times a week. And good luck to everybody out there at the moment. And Alan, if people want to get in touch with you personally.
With me, it's pretty much always Blue Sky, where I'm at agpbradley.bsky.social, or LinkedIn if you are that way inclined. We'll be back very soon. But until then, I've been Alan Bradley.
I've been Andrew Clues.
And safe motoring.